I hope everyone can see that. Let me see if I can move it. That's better. It's quite the glue. That'll work. I think. Gonna have to work. Alright. Alright, hello. Since my battery power is a little low on my phone today, I'm going to jump right into it, and as people come on here, I'm going to show how to paint this betta fish. The colors that I'm going to use for this are blue, white, red, brown, yellow, and black. My plate is very messy, but these are, the black, blue, white, yellow, brown, red. Primarily, these are the colors I stick with for most every painting that I do. They can pretty much make whatever color I need. But if you've been following all the other videos, you'll notice kind of the same scheme. So, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. And if you're working at your own convenience here with your own pace, with your own canvas and your own paints and brushes and everything, pretty much going to stick with the same brushes we've been sticking with all the other videos. This is kind of a different method I'm going to show here than what I've been showing in the other videos, so I'm really excited about this because it makes the process a little bit quicker. So if you're kind of like me and you like to just throw on the background so that you can get exactly to your subject matter and your idea that you are so excited to work on, this is maybe a really good technique or style that you want to go with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some black with some gray. We're going to head to the way back. I know I said mix some black with some gray. What I meant was mix some black with some white to make a gray. Really, really dark though. So a real dark color. As per usual, I'm not just going full black. I like a little bit of extra color in there. You could even throw some blue if you like. But we're just going to go dark. We're not going to go just, pitch black, but we're going to go real dark. And for this section, to about, actually going to go lower than that. This section and up. We're going to cover that in this color. And it doesn't have to be all the same. It can be faint trails of lighter colors and darker colors in here. I'm pretty much going to stick with this kind of emotion going on. There's some really cool techniques in here that make the painting look more intricate than it is. So it's a lot of fun, and I hope that when we get to those points, whoever is painting along with me is going to take them into consideration for your own pieces that you come up with. Because sometimes less is more, and less being more can also be doing a lot more than what you would anticipate it to be doing, which I think is just amazing when it comes to painting. Didn't have to work so hard for something because you touched it lightly and it just made it happen. So I still like to take different directions here. I like to work with, this going this way, the other side going the other way. So we've got even though it's not much of a background, there's some stuff going on in it. And I'm always about movement, if that's possible. Today I'm working on 12 by 12 canvas in case something seems a little weird or, different than usual. I am working on a smaller canvas. You don't have to do this on 12 by 12. You could do this on whatever size you like. The reason I like it on this size is betta fish. They like small enclosed spaces. You usually find them at pet stores in a cup. I was told that you find them in mud puddles of caves. They actually can breathe oxygen, and you'll notice they stay near the top of a tank if you were to put them in a tank. So usually they stay in little cups, little small containers. So I thought we could I would keep it on a smaller canvas for that point. But you can do however you like. They're also known as the Chinese fighting fish. You cannot put them together. They will tear each other apart. I know this because I used to work at PetSmart and I used to take care of all the different animals in there. So if you're ever buying fish or anything like that, you can ask me. Some fish knowledge, I can help you out. Alright, so we've got down the background. Let's start moving forward here to this ground area. This is the next step forward. I'm going to actually use some brown and some yellow and some red to make this mixture here. And I still have, some of that black, some of that dark color that I had in the beginning. I still have that in the brush. And what's cool about this ground area is you kind of let it fill itself in. So all these tiny strokes that are made, I leave them. Really don't overdo them. I like when they make themselves work. This is step number 1 of less is more. So you can actually come, into whatever color you like. I like to keep it darker down here. So a lot of the dark is where I'm going to stay on, but just leaving strokes. The less is more is making its own kind of dips and crevices happen as we're putting it down. It's also going to dry differently, so taking note of that helps me decide when I know it's right to just let it do what it does and walk away. But I still like it to be a little more reddish brown, so I'm going to add red as we also go. But these streaks are just real nice to leave as is. Down here it's going to get dark because there is something in front of this rocky area, but I'm still going to kind of do the same idea, just darker. So if you have a pre-knowledge of what's going to be occurring in some areas, you can actually start planning ahead and putting the shading down or anything like that if you want to. You don't have to. I'll use a little bit of white in there. White kind of spreads it around and adds a little more definition to it. If you want, you can follow this around your edges. This can actually be done, it's similar to when you are painting wood. I like to not really overstroke, I should say. I don't like to overstroke the paint on the canvas too much when it comes to anything rocky, anything fence, wooden, trees. You can kind of set it down and let it do what it does. I'm going to keep it dark down here. And we're starting to get some of that cool rocky texture in here. Another thing I do is I let this all dry and then maybe come back later and throw some extra things over top of it. Once I am content. But there's a point of no return. Anytime your gut is telling you, you should stop now. It's a good point to stop. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit for a little while. And I'm going to talk about this green area. What I did was I put some kind of plant back in this kind of area before I brought the bamboo over top of it. And it was really vague. It was not anything that's real particular. Pretty vague, pretty simple. Lots of different greens, even some, yellows in there. So if you don't have green, I always am a go-to for blue and yellow, and, taking them brighter with yellows and taking them lighter with white and taking them darker with blue. In this picture, I have some black that kind of shows on some of the leaves down on the bottom. That's okay in some instances. And I figured this was a good one since we have a lot of dark things going on. The betta fish, wanted it to be pretty standout-ish, but not too much. Everything needs to work together in a nice balance. So, I kept it as close to that as possible. But if you're going along with this, I hope that you looked up some betta fish that you like and some colors, and, you applied them accordingly. Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for inviting. That's awesome. I hope that they enjoy it if they come and they see. But we're waiting right now for this to dry up a little bit. I'm going to start... I can actually show what the next few days are going to look like if anybody wants to kind of jump ahead. I put up a post about, if you wanted to draw on your canvas or on your paper, whatever you're going to be using. If you want to do that ahead of time and kind of get a handle. If not, we can start from scratch with the pictures that we're going to be doing. But tomorrow's going to be a squirrel, and I ended up finishing the squirrel. Let me show it real fast. Alright. As best as I can here without messing it in the paint. There we go. So this is tomorrow. We got a squirrel, got a fence post. This is where I was talking about the wood of the fence. You know, it's real similar to the rock that we're working on in the bottom here. But just kind of leave the splotches, and then they look like little fence posts. And I might expound more on it tomorrow. It's kind of hard to see on the camera. And if I bring it closer, it's just going to look like a mess. So, squirrel is tomorrow, and I'll be showing the basic steps for it. It's real simple. It doesn't look probably simple, but this really took me no longer than an hour. So, I'm going to show some cool steps with some trees, with some leaves, with a fence post, with a squirrel, with the sky in the background. So stay tuned for tomorrow. And the next day, we're going to be doing a butterfly. So, you know, if you want to draw out a butterfly on a canvas, this is the one. I wanted to go a little different from what I've been seeing and what is even in my studio, kind of. So, a little bit different butterfly. Honestly, their wings are supposed to be identical to each other. I'll probably adjust that tomorrow when I'm teaching and show everybody kind of how to do that. So, these are the next two coming up. And there's more on my post about what's coming up that I put up with the drawings. So feel free to take a look at that. But let's get back to this painting here. So we're gonna go up top here, and I'm gonna actually put in this water effect, so it looks like it's underwater. This is another tip where less is more. So I like a really fine tip brush for this, and I'm gonna dip it in the white, and that's honestly all it's gonna take, just the white. And I'm just gonna draw kind of a line here at the top. It's okay if it's not one line, it's okay if it becomes a few, because the water, you know, I like adding the depth to the water. I like seeing not just the line, so it's not so flat. I like to see a few lines that are happening. But really, it's just this little small hairbrush that helps create this effect. And it doesn't have to be fully showing the entire way. Some spots are okay with, you know, the heavier white. But to get that actual water effect, you don't need it to be completely throughout. Just a faint line here in between helps tremendously. You just think real flowy. It's just, you know, maybe the water's slightly moving, but not so much. I'm all about that moving water. I don't really like when it's just sitting still. I like movement in my pieces. I like to see something happening so that you can get more of an emotion from it. But if you like the still water, and that, you know, gives you your emotion that you look for, feel free to do that. Really, I'm just wisping it along. And now there's a spot around here that I feel like is a little bit too much going on. So I'm going to take just a small brush. It's actually bigger than the one I just used, but it's, you know, still small. And kind of blend these in a little bit. Kind of let it smear around, dry brushing it in. On the original, I actually took a fan brush after that, and I already had my green here before I did all this. But what I did was I took a fan brush, and I kind of put in with yellow and green, or yellow and blue to make green. I put in some reflections, so up here, you know, there's green stuff going to be here. I put in some reflections up here on the water. Don't dip it in your coffee, Tim. Remove that. speaking of coffee, I hope that, as you're watching this, you have something to kind of sip on, to enjoy while I am here, taking up an hour or so of your time. But I'm kind of reflecting pretty much everything that's going to be up here. I didn't reflect the fish in the the example, honestly, because I forgot to. But you can do that as well at the end, once you know where your fish is going to be and everything. But I also like to reflect the ground a little bit over here. And it started to a little bit with some of the browns in the water. It's hard to see on the camera, I know, but I like to just put some reflections up there. With the fan brush, I just dab them on ever so slightly. And I only had a little bit of paint on it. Does not take a lot whatsoever. I'm actually going to come back in here with a small brush again. Maybe take a little bit of white. I'm going to fizzle it in here. Not all of it, but, a good portion. Same with the green. And take some green and kind of fizzle that. Take some white. Put it back in. I love when things reflect. It just really adds the consistency to your piece that you need. A little bit of water up top to show that we are, the betta is not just floating in the air, it's floating underwater. Very graciously. Alright, so let's get to putting in some of this green. I'm going to mix blue and yellow. You can really do this to your liking, but I never really have the same color on the brush at any time as before. I'm always switching them up. I'm adding yellow, or I'm adding blue, or I'm just mixing it up because things are in front of each other, they're behind each other, they're making different shades happen, they're it's all kind of different things going on. So this actually pretty much went off canvas here. And I'm okay for a little bit of that red to be in there as well. That's no problem. Red and green make some of those dark olivey, like super dark olive green happen if you mix it to that point. Mixing paints makes a lot of things happen, but as long as you watch it and you add, accordingly, you add small amounts at a time, you're going to see the changes, and you're going to kind of start to memorize what happens when you add so much. Just something a little flowy in this area. Don't really know what this is. Some type of plant life that is under the water with the betta fish. I was more concerned with just kind of covering some green in here than I was what it was covering. I just wanted something green so that when the bamboo came through, it wasn't just by itself. And again, yellow and black, I said this in the video yesterday, so if you haven't seen that, I guess it wouldn't be again. However, yellow and black, when you get them to a proper mixing point, they actually make a kind of dull green happen on their own. So you can kind of play around with that idea too, with this background kind of idea. This is still the background. like I said, I was just putting something green behind the bamboo that's going to be showing up a little later. It's really good to have the darkness kind of showing in between these things as well. So I'm not really getting rid of all of the dark behind it. I'm going to leave some. So it's good for that separation back here. Now I accidentally hit some of my water line up there because some of this is sticking out a little bit. And that's alright. As long as you remember to come back later and put that line back in. Throw some random things out there. One thing I don't like is when things look too glopped together, I guess. So I like to throw some strands of something out here. Separate it a little bit. And now I'm going to come behind here. Behind what I just added, this plant life that's back here. I'm going to throw a shadow in here. This is going to kind of, it's background, but it's still going to show depth. So that we know it's not the back, but it is still in the back. The closer, the darker, the further, the lighter it starts to get. So when I can, just drag it out with the drier kind of brush. So I rinse it, dry it off, and I come back in here with this brush and pull it. Pull these dark shades. So it's not just a divisive line, it's also fading out. I'm pretty happy with that there. So I'm going to come back up here to, this area here. I'm going to add a couple of levels to it. With the red and the yellow and the brown as a mixture. Just want some spots that aren't quite as dark. I'll throw them in there and leave them. And as simple as that, as simple as just scribbling it in with some, squiggles. As funny as that might sound, that's all it is with the brush, and then you leave it. You don't overblend. You don't continue to blend, you just put it on there, squiggle it, kind of leave it, let it do what it does. It's going to dry in a completely different manner than how you squiggled it on there. Because you have, textures building up, there's different level of paint on here. It's not all flat. There's glops right here. There's glops just kind of hanging around. Once they're dry, they make some nice things happen, especially in this kind of an atmosphere and this kind of style painting. So before I forget, and I might hit this line again, but I'm going to come up here and put that line back that belongs here. A little bit of it. And I'm going to add it as if I've just been adding another line to the water as opposed to filling it back in. I add it as if it's its own individual line connecting again. That way it looks like it wasn't forced. Just kind of it happened and it was all right. So that is the background, and we're going to start heading to this area here with the fish before we hit anything there and anything down here. But as you're going along, if there's things that you can think of that are in a habitat of a betta fish that you like that I don't have in here, feel free to add them. You go to the store and they have lots of different things that you can put in a small, like it's a really tiny aquarium for betta fish that you can get if you don't keep them in a cup. And, usually it's bamboo, but there's rocks, there's different colored rocks. I really thought that the not so colorful rocks were better for this piece, since you really don't want to take away from your betta. Your betta fish has brilliant colors that they come with, or they're born with, that I feel like if I were to put them in a tank and, keep them showing in the house or something, I really want their colors to stand out more than I want the habitat to stand out. So that's why I toned it down for this piece. I thought it would stand out more. I ended up with colors that kind of toned down. They started out really bright, but once they dried, they toned down a lot. So keep in mind, know your paints. I kind of wanted to show that as an example, so maybe this time I can brighten it up a little bit more. But know your paints, know how they work, know how they darken when they dry, and paint accordingly to that. So let's get started. I put down a base coat for this betta, and I'm going to do the same one that I did on the example. I really like the colors that I saw on this one. So with a white base coat, I'm going to draw this out with my paintbrush. And we're going to put it up here like it's coming up here to sip some air. And I found it kind of strange when I was actually painting this, the body, it doesn't go to a really thin kind of point. It really kind of stays a little boxy. And I actually coated every bit of this fish. So, when I was coming in with the fins on the back, I just stayed real flowy. And I kind of let them finish themselves off. Real brushy like we're doing the fur. If you were following the bumblebee, we did, the bumblebee fur real lightly, just kind of grazing the brush over the canvas and allowing it to wisp these nice thin lines that almost look like fur. Same thing with the tail. The tail actually is going to come over top of the top fin. They kind of let them hang over to the side sometimes. And this one was doing that when I was going by my example photograph. As you can see, whatever direction you take, whatever you do over top of another thing, that is going to stay showing. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to see this fin showing when I have it down, and my direction was taken just a little bit differently, a little heavier over here. And remember, that's the fin right there. You can see how it sticks out real nicely. And then under here is more of these beautiful fins that they have just coming out, kind of going its own way. The actual color of this one, I think, was purple and red, and then the actual color of the one that was in this habitat that I saw was yellow and with blue fins. So every one of them are just really magnificent. And you can kind of do whatever color you like, honestly. I've seen silver with red, I've seen black with red, I've seen so many different types of betta fish. This one actually has a real shiny teal coat over, like it gets really dark on the belly, and then it has the teal shooting out into the tail fins, and all the fins, honestly. And then at the tips of them, they turn red, and then you have some little blue lines that are streaking in there. So this one had all kind of color. From here, I actually want to shade the body, the dark. So I take a little bit of black here, and I'm going to use the wetness of the white paint to help me define the darks without it having to go super dark. I mean, it can under here go a little darker since we do have shade in the painting. It's going to be a little darker down here. I'm going to skip that fin that's right there. I don't want to forget about that. Use this white to your advantage to get these dark colors in the body. Alright. Awesome. I'm going to go a little bit darker in here just to keep it going. Alright. So there it is. There is the foundation of our betta fish. I like how everything's kind of just flowing. Nothing feels too forced. If you want to add some things, you can. Maybe I want to flow this out a little bit more down here. The water really takes over their fins and spreads it out beautifully like an umbrella. So you want to take advantage of that when you're painting this type of subject. You want to take advantage of the beauty that happens when something affects something else. The wind affects like a balloon or a cloth in the wind or something like that. The water affects the fish fins and it makes them move just real nicely. You want to take advantage of those principles when you are painting a subject or painting something. You want to think about, if you want to take it a step further than just I'm painting the subject, you think about, well, how can I bring out, the best, I guess, for the viewer who is going to see this subject. I'm going to mix a little bit of this brown with this red to put on some of these. Well, we'll start with these fins down on the side here. This fin. So, toned it down a little bit. Didn't want it super bright, but I didn't want it super dark. So a little bit of brown, a little bit of red. Brings it to a nice maroon shade. I'm barely touching the canvas, honestly, because if I hold it down too heavy, that red is going to disappear into the white. It's going to become too pink. So, barely touching is kind of another technique. And because the turquoise that's going to come through is over top of the red, I'm actually going to lay down some of the red in the fins now. So I'm going to wisp them out the same way that I was wisping the base coat. Can take it pretty far. It's okay. We can work with how they fall. I'd rather be further, bringing them further than not far enough and ending up with too much space in between the red and the turquoise. You want it to fall naturally, and you want it to cover every bit of the area that you're trying to cover. It's real wispy. Alright. So I'm going to drop down to a smaller brush here, and I'm going to visit the eye. This is, again, another piece where it's a lot of less is more. I'm moving around the wet paint that's already there. And all that I'm thinking is there's an eyelid, kind of. The eyes protrude out a little bit. So all I did was I drew a circle. And now I'm going to cover it in with a darker shade here on the inside of that circle. And then I'm going to do my signature eye drops here of adding some white specks just to bring it to life. All I ever honestly do is I dot a corner, the top corner, and I put a little line on the bottom corner, and I just kind of fizzle in some white, kind of dry brush it in there a little bit right in the center, so that it's not just a heavy white, you're also getting kind of a smudged white in between, so it looks like there's an actual reflection happening in the eyeball. If you wanted on something like this, it's right here by this green, you can throw a little pinch of green in there too. Maybe along the side there. And you'll notice that, the surroundings are more so affecting even more now. You can even add it to a little bit of this undercoat of the fish here. Got a lot of green trying to throw itself off the side. A little bit of that reflection in there. Another thing I like to do is, this is something I did on the koi fish last night, but I figured it would also help out with this guy. I started to do these lines. This is an optional thing, but I feel like they help. They kind of help to bring the roundness, that spherical value, the 3D idea in. As long as you keep them rounded. You don't want to go just straight across, you really want to round them. Helps bring it to life even more. So I'm going to add, and come back through, kind of add these lines. I'm going to go in between each one with some black. Kind of bring in that diamond shape. Just draw on those lines, that diamond shape that you see. It's going to thicken the scales a little bit. Bring it forward. Not sure how well this is seen on the camera, but you know, if you're doing this at home, you will see it pretty well. And I don't want to lose the sense of the eye here, so I'm going to actually come underneath of it, underneath the eyelid area, and put in a dark line to bring it out. I feel like I have a little bit of an odd shape here, so I'm going to fix it up. There we go. That feels better. Alright, so let's get some of these aqua colors in the tail fins here. So what I did, you see my mess of a plate here. I took white and yellow and a little bit of blue to make that usual aqua color that we make in my videos. And I take it up real high with the white. First I'm going to highlight the body with it. On the top. The bottom is going to stay dark, but the top can get some of this color. And you can even throw in, as it's coming down, you can throw in some teals. So just blue and yellow mixed to a teal as it's coming down around the fish. If you need to go a little lighter, you can. It's good to use every color that you can get along the teal line, because they're shiny fish. They're real dazzling, so when they shine, you're getting a lot of spectrums of color. And actually I wanted to go brighter on the tail, so I'm adding white. I'm going to wisp it in, and it's going to go over top of the red a little bit. Follow your direction. Direction is important. We're getting a lot of nice colors in there. A lot of nice beta colors. What I do is I ditch that brush for a little bit, and I come down to this small thin liner. If you can get one of these, if you don't have one, they help tremendously with these fish. And I actually took some black, and I came in here with the real thin lines barely noticeable, just to keep everything separate like it is. You know, you can come in here with the darker teal if you don't want to go black. You can use the darker reds if you'd like on the red areas. I'm not doing every single area, but I want to hit a good portion of them. Ever so slightly, just wisping it on there. If you want to add white, you can. Like I said earlier, there's some blue in the red. So I'm going to throw some blue in there. I actually mixed on the original some white with some blue to make it stand out just a little bit more. I'm not sure if anybody else sees the glare, but there might be a glare kind of hindering being able to view that. I'm going to come in with a mixture of red and blue. Mainly blue, or mainly red, I'm sorry. Mainly the red. So that is, it's just a form of dark red. Almost kind of purple-ish, just so I can bring it under here and add that depth. You can bring that color in here too if you wanted. I'm going to stick mainly on the red. To kind of throw these in here. I really want these tails to be super wispy. They are very, almost feathery, honestly. They're like feathers. Wisp them out further if you want. As I was saying earlier, you know, if you wanted to follow up with some of this teal from the fish up on the top of this water, you can. And come back in with some white so that it's not just a big blop of teal. Still got our reflection happening. Right, so we got our fish, we got our background. We just need some rocks on the bottom and some bamboo. Oh yeah, this would be awesome with metallic paint. You can definitely add that to their scales and bring them out. I didn't even think of that. So yeah, if you wanted, you know, you could, if you use metallic paints with the scales in the same techniques that I showed, that'll give you that nice shine on the scales on the fish like they are in real life. So definitely something to think about. Some people like to keep it more simple and throw glitter on it. That even would work. You're painting, so something that you would like, feel free. So the bamboo was, it might be kind of odd the way that it was added in here, because it wasn't how I thought it was going to be added, but it ended up working out. So I'm going to use some yellow and some white to start out with. And I am going to bring them out of the water again, so we're going to have to go over that line again. No problem. We're going to bring in some bamboo here. It's going to kind of, because this greenery back here is still a little wet, it's going to take some of that. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. So I came up to this brush here. Not the largest one, the next one down. And I'm just using the best I can with the edge. To bring it down like bamboo. Bamboo is all different, so they have these areas where they look like they were stuck together and they're separated, but they are quite not separated. If you know anything about bamboo. Alright, so there's one stick of bamboo so far. I want to bring 3 of these down like I did in the original. Not too many and not too less. I think 3 is a good number for this painting. As I come down into the paint, I add yellow, I add white. Just kind of go along with keeping it different. Got some green back in there here to switch it up a lot. As it comes down here, I do still want to go pretty dark, so I'm going to keep it pretty dark down below. About there is going to be the separation for this one. They can be in different spots. They don't have to be in the same place. So maybe this one will be here. It's really suggestive right now. It's not necessarily like, boom, it's bamboo. It's kind of just vaguely putting the idea that this is bamboo here. And all the different colors here are making it up, making it happen. I'm going to take some white, or if you just want to take a lighter color, like yellow or lime green, something light that is going to show. You're going to go on these separations and put a line right through. As the paint is wet, it's making this nice separation happen for bamboo. If you needed to show a little more, you can always just add to it as needed. And if you want to add a little bit of a shine to your bamboo, you can do that. Smaller brush. Alright, before we hit this final step, I'm going to hit my white again. And I'm going to bring the water through the bamboo. Gotta stay consistent here. Okay, so let's hit these rocks. The funny thing about the rocks is I glob paint and I just put it on there in a circular motion and they were working. So I used every different color. I used white, I used a mixture of the red and the yellow and the brown, black. I used just a lot of different things, a lot of different colors to make these off-tone or these lower tone rocks happening. I leave it lighter on top, darker on the bottom, just sticking kind of with that principle. With these rocks, nothing too major. Can come darker on the bottom. If you really wanted to give them detail of any kind, you can do that. You don't have to though. I really didn't spend a lot of time on these. I just threw them on and I made sure that each one was noticeable in its own way. You know, if they have to stick out a little bit, that's fine. I'm going to go really dark here so that one sticks out. But I'm just circular motion. I'm not doing much more than that. You can have some gray rocks in here if you want. You want to switch it up pretty much each time though. You don't really want the same rock sitting on each other too much, unless you can notice the change. And I put it all across the bottom here. So even if you just wanted to plan out some that are far apart, there can be some that do hit each other, but like I said, you want those to be different from each other. So make sure that one looks like it's over top of the other. And that comes in with, you know, all these kind of shading principles. Like I said, I didn't spend that much time on the original for that. But in the case that you do spend that time, just make sure something's over top of something else. There's going to be a shadow in between, especially when there's a lot of darkness in the piece. It's got all these different colored rocks. Get some yellows in there. This is your painting, so make it your own. Do the colors you like down here. I have to say, everyone who's been showing me your work, I am just so impressed. It's one thing to teach in person and, you know, go over maybe changes that you want to make, or whatever it might be, and, you know, see what leaves the studio so nicely. And it's another to try to teach something on the internet through a camera who you can't even talk to anybody like specifically, and you know, get some amazing results just the same. So thank you all who've been brave and have picked up the brush and been trying. You blow me away. You know, I don't know how to express honestly how incredible everyone's been doing, but seriously, I'm just beyond amazed at, you know, just that. I'm so proud, and I'm amazed at what I've been seeing people do, and you know, keep doing it. If it's something you like to do, keep doing it. Have fun with it. Explore with it. Don't be afraid to take chances and try things out. Don't stop showing me your beautiful work. It inspires me. It helps me to understand what I need to go over. Maybe things I need to switch up when I'm trying to explain them. It helps me understand how to guide better. So I appreciate it so much. and I hope everyone continues to enjoy it. I'm going to cover the bamboo down here a little bit too. I'm going to get all these areas. And now I'm going to sign. I'm going to use the blue right down here for my initials. And don't forget your bottom edge if you've been painting the edges. That's the last part that will need done. Never do it in the beginning because it will stick to the easel and that might tear up the bottom of the canvas. So you don't want to do that. But thank you so much for watching this painting here. Again, tomorrow we'll be doing the squirrel, and I'm super excited about that. And check out my posts about how to prep for that if you want to follow along and paint. And I appreciate everything. So have a good one, and I will be back tomorrow. Bye.